I want to tell you about a conversation that I had with this woman. She is a PR professional. She's 8 years in business, genuinely brilliant at what she does. And she said something to me that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. She said, the buck stops with me at work and the buck stops with me at home. And the way that she said it wasn't like angry or being dramatic. It was just like tired, exhausted, the kind of tired that, lives in your bones, the kind that makes you question whether the business you've built is working anymore or whether you've accidentally become the thing that's powering it. She was in perimenopause. She had ADHD. She'd only just been diagnosed with. She had 2 young children and she was running a feast or famine business that had been built in her 30s for a version of herself that no longer existed. And here's the thing about scaling a business through the perimenopause, and nobody talks about it, right? It's not a motivation problem. It's not a strategy problem. It's not even necessarily a mindset problem. However, so many coaches are going to tell you otherwise. It is a design problem. And today, that is exactly what we're going to talk about. Welcome back to the Simplified CEO podcast. I am Claire Bartlett, business strategist and founder of the Simplified CEO system, and your guide to building and scaling a business that actually works with your biology instead of fighting against it and actually scales for success despite the perimenopause symptoms. Today's episode is one that I've been wanting to record for a while. We're going into what it actually takes to scale, to grow and build and sustain a business through the perimenopause. And I promise you, by the end of this, you are going to see your business completely differently. So let's start with the big one, the thing that I think is keeping most peripreneurs stuck than almost anything else. The lie is this, that scaling means doing more. More content, more visibility, more offers, more hours, more energy, more output, more. And eventually, supposedly, the compound effect kicks in and everything gets easier, right? We've all heard that. But that is the framework most of us were handed when we started out in business. And for a lot of women, it worked, right? It worked for me, but it only works for a while. You pushed harder. You showed up everywhere. You took the call at 9 o'clock at night. You posted 7 days a week, and it did move the dial. And then perimenopause arrived, and the strategy that built your business started to actively work against you. I had a client, I'm going to call her Kay. She's a play therapist who'd been in business for 5 years. When she first started, she described her brain like having multiple tabs open at once, right? She could hold 10 different threads. She could switch between them effortlessly. She could deliver brilliant work. She could manage the admin. She could do the school run. She could pitch for funding and still have energy left to think about the strategy at 10 o'clock at night. And then she said to me, now just one tab is enough. She wasn't exaggerating. She wasn't being negative. She was just describing an actual neurological shift, a real documented psychological change that happens when your estrogen and your progesterone begin to fluctuate. The part of the brain responsible for your working memory, for holding multiple things at once, for cognitive switching, it's directly affected. And this is not a personal weakness. This is just our biology. But here's where the problem compounds, right? Because she kept applying the old scaling model. Do more, be more visible, push harder, get it all done. And then the harder that she pushed, the more exhausted she became. And then the more the guilt crept in because she was doing everything the way that she'd been taught and it just wasn't working anymore. That guilt and shame of I should be achieving more, I hear it from nearly every peripreneur I speak to. And I felt it too. And it is one of the most corrosive things in a perimenopausal business owner's inner world, because it causes you to double down on the very strategies that are draining you, right? So before we talk about what scaling through perimenopause actually looks like, I need you to hear this really clearly. The model that you built your business on was designed for a hormonal profile you no longer have. That is not a failure and it's not weakness. It's just a design flaw in the advice that we've all been working towards, not in you. And once you start understanding that, you stop trying to fix yourself and you just start redesigning the business. That is what we're going to talk about for the rest of this episode. And I am so excited because scaling is absolutely possible in perimenopause. I see it happening every single week with the women I work with and in my own business, but it requires a completely different set of rules. Right. So if scaling isn't about doing more, what is it actually about? I want to offer you three things, three non-negotiables for sustainable growth through perimenopause. And I say non-negotiable because I've tried to work around each of them with clients and in my own business. And the result is always the same. You get short-term movement and long-term burnout. The first is energy architecture. This is something I talk about a lot inside my programs, and it always lands hard for people the first time that they hear it, because energy architecture is the deliberate strategic design of how and when you use your cognitive and your physical energy throughout your working week. In perimenopause, energy is not a constant, right? It's not something that you can rely on the same way that you could in your 30s. It fluctuates within a day, across a week, and across your cycle if you're still cycling. And most business owners have never actually mapped this. They just wake up each day, open the laptop, and start responding to the loudest thing in their inbox. Sound familiar? And I know that sounds familiar because I've done it, and every woman I've worked with has done it. But the shift is this: instead of being reactive with your energy, you become deliberate. You identify the hours in your week where your brain is at its sharpest, where you can think and create and make decisions, and you protect those hours for the work that actually moves your business forward. The deep work, the work that builds the strategy, creating the content that sells. And then everything else, the emails, the admin, the tasks that don't require your full capacity, they can get batched into your lower energy windows. I had a client who went from working nearly all the time and making inconsistent revenue to working 4 focused hours a day and seeing her most consistent income month in 3 years of her business. And the difference wasn't that she was working harder, it was working more aligned. The second non-negotiable is revenue simplicity. And this is the one that surprises people because most scaling advice tells you to diversify, right? Multiple income streams, multiple offers, multiple ways to get clients. And yes, diversification has its place, but in the perimenopause, complexity is your enemy. So when you have 5 different offers and 5 different price points and 5 different delivery methods, your brain has to hold all of that simultaneously. It has to context switch between them. It has to market them all. Every decision becomes harder. And I see this in the women I speak to all the time. They're working constantly, they're making money, but not the money that they want. And when we map it out, it's because their energy is spread so thin across so many things that none of them are getting the focused attention that turns them into reliable revenue. While the Peripreneur scaling model starts with one clear, high value offer, and it gets known for that. It builds a simple, repeatable pathway to it. And then, and only then, does it add anything. And simplicity isn't settling, simplicity is strategy. Then the third non-negotiable is what I call the back office before visibility model. This is the one that goes against almost everything you see on Instagram about growing your business. The conventional wisdom says show up, be more visible, grow your audience, and the back office will sort itself out later. But for a peripreneur, that approach is a disaster because visibility without the infrastructure means that when clients do come, and they will, you're delivering with a business that has no systems, has no automation, no CRM, and everything is still running through your head and your inbox and your nervous system. And when your nervous system is already managing fluctuating hormones, that is not a recipe for scaling. That is a recipe for burnout and collapse. One of my clients, she was like, I do everything manually. I haven't got a CRM. And she'd been in business for 5 years, all of that time, all that knowledge and all that client work. And it was all stored in her brain, which in perimenopause is genuinely the most unreliable storage system available to you. But the back office work, the systems, the automations, the client journey, the content that runs while you sleep, it needs to be built before you push hard on visibility. And yes, it's the unsexy stuff, it's not the fun element of business, but visibility is only as powerful as the infrastructure behind it. Hi, my lovelies. I just want to take this quick ad break to tell you more about the Simplified CEO Foundations. This is my introductory solution to the Simplified CEO School. This is £47 a month right now. It is on offer. And inside it, you get a weekly live call with me, a group session where we can go through anything that is holding you back right now. It has countless courses and programs and solutions to help you get your business to where it needs to be, to simplify, to build a sustainable business, and to get that success, to scale 6 figures and beyond during your perimenopause. The links are all in the show notes. So if you want to find out more and you want to join us as Simplified CEO Foundations, come along and get that support, get that community, and get your business moving. Okay, so we've talked about energy, we've talked about simplicity, my favorite word, and we've talked about back office infrastructure. But there's something underneath all of that, something that I think is actually the biggest scaling blocker for peripreneurs. And it doesn't have a tidy framework name. It's the confidence piece. And it is directly connected to the hormonal shift. So here's what I hear from women over and over and over again. When we talk about putting themselves out there, raising their prices or pitching for bigger clients, saying yes to the opportunities that their business is actually ready for, they say things like, who am I to show people how to live their lives? Or who am I to ask that price? Maybe I need to do another course or need to get another qualification. And this isn't coming from women who lack the expertise. This is coming from women who have imposter syndrome, sitting on top of a perimenopause driven identity shift. And that combination is brutal because here is what happens in the perimenopause. Nobody really prepares you for. You stop honestly recognizing yourself, the version of you that was confident and quick and decisive and effortless in a room. That version starts to feel like a stranger. And when you're trying to scale a business and the face of that business is you, and you don't feel like yourself anymore, the logical response is to pull back, to go quieter, and to wait until you feel more like you used to. But waiting isn't a scaling strategy, and waiting for something that's never going to return obviously is never going to get you anywhere. And one client I spoke to described it as a whole different persona coming out. And another said she'd never in her life not wanted to go to work before until the perimenopause. These aren't lazy women. These aren't women that don't care anymore. They're just women experiencing a documented, real neurological and hormonal identity disruption and trying to run businesses through it without any framework for what's happening. So here's what I want to offer instead. The confidence that comes from perimenopause aware business design is a completely different kind of confidence because it's not the adrenaline fueled confidence of the hustle years. It isn't the confidence of doing more and more until you feel like enough or waiting for the old you to return. It's like the quiet, grounded confidence of, I know my offer is excellent. I know my systems can handle this. I know my energy is being used well. I have a plan, and a plan is designed for who I am right now. That is the confidence that scales. And I'll tell you something, that every woman who has come through my Simplified CEO School program describes a moment about 2 or 3 months in where something really shifts, where they stop waiting to feel ready and start showing up from structure instead. Because the structure supports them, because the design does the heavy lifting that their nervous system no longer has to. A client sent me a message after her second month, and she had been an entertainment PR professional for years, genuinely one of the best in her industry. And she'd spent years living with financial anxiety, feast or famine income, and a deep nagging feeling that she couldn't sustain it. And she wrote to me, I just want to feel freer. I want to be able to plot. I want to not live in fear of not having enough money coming in. That freedom, it doesn't come from a mindset course. It comes from a business that is structurally built for the woman you are right now. Right. I want to get really practical now because I know some of you are thinking, this all sounds great, Claire, but what does it actually look like? What does a perimenopause aware scaling strategy look like on a Monday morning? So let me walk you through what I call a simplified scale, the approach that we build inside my programs and the one that I use in my own business. And it starts with what I call the energy blueprint. Before you plan your content, before you look at your offer, before you think about visibility, you have to map out your real available energy. And this isn't the energy that you used to have or that you wish you had. This is your real, honest, sustainable energy across a working week. So for most peripreneurs, this is somewhere between 15 and 25 focused hours per week. And the goal isn't to add more hours, it's to make those hours really count. So we will identify your peak cognitive window, usually first thing in the morning for some women, although this varies. And then we ring fence those for income generating activity, for the content creation or the sales conversations and the development of your offer, the things that actually make money. Then everything else, the admin and the inbox and the social media responses, they can get batched into separate windows and done in shorter, lower stake blocks. And this, I know this sounds very organized when I say it like that. And yes, it does require an adjustment period because most of us have spent years being really reactive and answering the email the second it arrives, being available to everyone all of the time and treating every hour of the day as equally available and important for everything. But availability isn't a business strategy. And in perimenopause, unlimited availability is not even a biological possibility. So we need to design around reality. And how that looks is you might only really feel that you can do 4 hours a day. So spend 2 hours in the morning. So I'll give you my example. I work probably 4 to 5 hours a day. I am really switched on in the morning. I do the school run, I get to my desk and I'm like, right, let's crack on. But in reality, I probably only have about 2 hours of real strong core work. So I will tick off the big boy actions at that point, the things that I know are really going to move my business forward. Then I will have a couple of hours off. I need a really long lunch, I need to recharge. In that time, though, I might be doing some social media engagement, checking in on the comments, replying to people, sending some DMs, but I'm doing it from the sofa while I'm really relaxed and I'm just really chill. So, yes, I might still be doing some work, but it's proper low cognitive effort. And I feel really relaxed and calm and like I'm recharging. Then I'll do another couple of hours at my desk in the afternoon. That could be scheduling content. It's still lower energy and lower cognitive bandwidth, but it's still important work. And then again, when I'm recharged on the evening, while I'm on the sofa or on a walk, I might do some more outreach, some more DMs, some more social media, and just, engage the clients and have the conversations. Check in with my school community, answer any queries in there. But you can see that it took me a little while, but I'm fully aware of how my body works and I just respect it now. I'm not going to be able to sit at my desk from 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. And honestly, I don't want to. I never want to have to force to be sitting at my desk from 9 till 5 ever again. I respect the fact that I want a long lunch and I've worked hard enough to be able to afford that for myself now, if I so choose. I want to have Fridays off and be able to do what I want. I want to be able to go for brunch on a Wednesday if I so choose. I want to have that flexibility. And that's what it's all about for me. It's about understanding my biology, understanding my mental capacity and my cognitive load and building a business model around it. Then the second thing we do is the offer audit. We look at everything that you are currently selling or trying to sell. And we ask one question: which of these, if scaled, would give you the most income for the least energy output? Not the most exciting offer or the one that you've been promoting the longest, the one that has the best return on your energy. And then we build the scaling plan around that one thing. And this is usually where women feel a mix of like relief and grief, because relief because suddenly there's clarity, but grief because it often means letting go of something that they've been, hoping will work or building for a long time. But clarity is the currency of scaling in perimenopause. Ambiguity is the enemy. And then the third piece, which I will not stop talking about ever, is the automation layer. The parts of your business that need to happen, whether you're having a good brain day or not. It's the email sequences that go out consistently, the booking system that takes care of itself, the content that was created in a high energy window and then scheduled to run in a low energy week, right? One of the most powerful shifts I watch happen for the women in my world is the moment they realize their business can function while they rest, that they can wake up on a Thursday morning when their brain is running at 40% and something is still happening in the background. When inquiries are still being generated and you're still building the trust and moving people closer to buying, that is what scaling through perimenopause looks like. It's not more, it's smarter. It's being deliberate with your time. It's built for the woman that you are, not the woman the business advice was written for. I had a call with a client this morning, and she's been in business, I think maybe 5 years. And I spoke to her about automations, and she's still doing every single thing manually. She's still finding a convenient time to have the session with her client manually. She's still invoicing manually. She's still reconciling where the payments have come in manually. And when I spoke to her about it and I explained the level of automation that we should be looking for and we can build really quickly in her business, I could see the excitement build within her, because it's putting the boundaries in place, right? And it's stopping her from running a business that is being controlled by the client. The client has been her boss for all of these years because she has moved things around in her calendar to accommodate a client. She's let the client run her week for her and her schedule and her time, all of the time that she's been in business. And I said to her, it's time you take back control. You are the boss of your time and your business. It's time to put those boundaries in place. And I'm so excited to be able to support her to do that. So, if today's episode has landed for you, if you heard yourself in any of the stories, if any of those phrases felt uncomfortably familiar, then I want you to know that there is a way through. It's not a way to push harder. Please don't push any harder. It's just about redesigning. And the Simplified CEO School is where I work with peripreneurs in a 6-month group program to do exactly this. We build the energy architecture, the simplified offers and the back office. We work on the confidence, all of it together in a room full of women who get it. If you want to find out more, please send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at the Claire Bartlett, or head to hello@claire-bartlett.co.uk. Drop me an email. The details are all there, and I will also drop the links in the show notes. But as always, thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you have found that useful, and I can't wait to speak to you all next week. Take care.